everyone, I'm Victoria and this is Mr. Wnek and we're doing a staff spotlight today. So Mr. Wnek, where has your interest in marine science stemmed from?
My interest in marine science stemmed from the fact that when I was younger, I worked at Barnegat Bay, New Jersey, quite a bit. What I mean by that is I recreate on the bay, learn how to sail. I kind of grew up along the Toms River, so every aspect of my life, including high school, was along the river. I always had a liking for the bay and always kind of learned about species or everything else that lived there. However, my biggest concern about the bay was how it was being treated and how people used the bay, so to speak, and what things were going into the bay that would harm it. But I never really had a true marine science kind of feel about it. It was more about the bay, the water quality health, because it was important for recreation. So that kind of came along later on, after my college years and doing some work out on Barnegat Bay.
Okay. Where did you go to college?
I went to Monmouth University. I transferred from another school that'll remain nameless in the nation's capital anyway. I transferred to Monmouth University. I was going to be there for a short gap time. I guess it's Monmouth College at the time, but it was a short gap stop to kind of transfer over to Penn State. However, the professors down there were very involved in field research and working out in college. And my background there was that I was pre-professional, so I was looking to go to medical school. And that just didn't work out for me because I just couldn't work in a hospital or volunteer in a hospital setting without getting sick. So I didn't know really what should I do until this one professor of mine that was working out in Monmouth County and certain water bodies kind of got me involved. And I thought that was the direction I was going to head, but that's where I did a lot of my undergraduate work.
So after college, was your aim directly into teaching?
No, it wasn't. After college, I was accepted into law school because my dad especially thought it would be good to be a professional. So I was accepted to quite a few law schools and thought I wanted to do environmental law. So I met with a number of attorneys and environmental lawyers, and I found out that it wasn't so much about going and becoming Erin Brockovich. It was more about compromising and settling out, and that the job opportunities quite weren't there, and I would have to maybe even work with big industry. To get experience, and that just wasn't appealing to me. So I had a choice. It was either head into law school or go back to grad school for something else. That's what I personally wanted to do so I wouldn't get stale. At the time I was working with a petroleum company actually as their environmental agent and worked on spill plans so that if they did spill, I would have a plan with the DEP in New Jersey. After that job stint, they put me in as an office manager, so I did a lot of marketing. And I just found out that trying to build customers up into like a fossil fuel company was kind of against what I believed in. So that's why graduate school became a big option for me. So I went into education, and a lot of my friends said, be a good teacher because I always helped them out, and that's basically the path that I stayed in. But I always had that love for pure science that kind of drew me further.
Your first teaching job. Describe it.
Okay, my first teaching job. I taught at a small private school that eventually closed in New Jersey. But my first year was involved in chemistry and biology. I took the job to do a year to find out if I could teach. The second year was to develop my skills better. And then my third year was to refine them enough to go find a job somewhere else. So after that 3-year plan, something opened up with the Ocean County Vocational Technical School. And the fact that the school I was at was going to close kind of made sure my plan stayed or was enacted. Anyway, the job here was to try to bring marine and environmental science into a vocational setting. So in 1994, I was one of the finalists for the jobs and ended up getting the job here. And it was kind of a challenge because this is more of an academic/applied program. And many of the programs, especially back then, were very applied. And it wasn't so much of an academic rigor involved. So it worked out really well, but it was a very challenging first year, to say the least, in terms including materials, philosophies, and how to really drive this program in the way that it would suit the marine environmental interests.
Okay. What did you think of MEETS at the start, and how do you see that it's changed now?
Okay. At the start, it was the Marine and Environmental Science program. So we were a program of the vocational school, and I guess the challenge was we had learners of all different abilities, which is a good thing, but it's also very challenging. So we had students that were ranked in the top 5% of their high school classes. We had the valedictorian from Manchester High School, actually, one year, and the salutatorian the next year. But then you have a student that just had strong interest. So we had to try to get them on common ground and to show that they could work together a little bit, and that they all can make a difference and learn about the marine environment and challenge them. But it wasn't so much, what we found wasn't so much like their intellectual ability that would make the difference, it was really their passion for learning. So we were very fortunate because we built a program where students really enjoyed being in the program and wanted to be here. And it's the same now, but the difference was back then we had a lot more headaches to deal with in terms of busing, in terms of students having different activities at their home school they had to get back to. Like Manchester would have certain half days for seniors, and we would lose those days, and Central wouldn't send certain days, and Toms River schools had their own days. So there was a lot of coordination among the schools, and they were common to our program, the students. They felt like one when they were here, but they still had those homeschool rivalries. So if there was a football game that involved Toms River South and Lakewood, I would have to hear about it for like a week because it was like a big rivalry game. And the difference is that we were able to kind of take that focus, that love of, I would just say pure science, and kind of put it into more of a full-time school. So we piloted a college link program back in the late 1990s that worked really well. The students earned about 16 college credits before they graduated high school. And that was kind of the pilot to see if this thing could work, and it worked really well. And the other thing about it was we weren't really MATES at the beginning, we were just a Marine and Environmental Science program, but the MATES acronym came into play about 1997, where we needed to find an acronym. And we knew a Marine Academy was very similar to MAST, but we didn't really want to run in the same lines as MAST. So we took the Marine Academy because that's what we focused on, but we went the environmental route. So our focus is more general in terms of like environmental science. We still focus on the oceanography, but we also are big into the estuaries and using the resources around us. So that's where we play our strengths. So that's where MATES came about.
Do you see your own interest in protecting the bay influencing the school's direction in that, and concentrating on these estuaries and not only the ocean?
Yeah.
In that sense.
Yes, that is something that I was hoping to keep things a little more general so students can make up their own mind as they come through as to where their interests were, whether about protecting the bay or the ocean, or whether it's about students getting involved in action in terms of something they want with environmental pollution. So we were always trying to keep it general, but what happened was a lot of what we do here kind of stemmed down into research that overlaps with what I do. So we're involved with conservation of diamondback terrapins. That's something I've been researching for the past, now it's going to be 11 years. And what happens is that kind of it just becomes part of what you do. And sometimes I hope it doesn't totally define me, but it's something that has become part of the school. So a lot of our common research or interests here, that's amongst all the faculty, will kind of trickle down to the students in some capacity.
Okay. What is your advice to the underclassmen and the seniors about their path in life and just learning in the school generally?
I always said, somebody asked me that question years ago, like what was a message that you wanted students to take from, whether it be shared time or full time. My message is that we have a theme of the school that's marine and environmental science. It's an emphasis in science, an emphasis on math, very strong humanities behind it too, stronger than most other schools that I know. But my whole point is, as long as you can make a decision in the future, in whatever field you go into, that will help to preserve, protect, or put concentration into that decision, that's all we ask. So if you can do something and there's an environmental good goal at the end of it, I don't care if you're working in business, then you've accomplished the mission that we see fit here. And the other thing I always tell students is, do something that you really love doing and something that you can make an impact with. And I think that's like the key to anything. I know it sounds so generic and vanilla, but the fact is that if you go to a place that you really have your heart into, it's not work anymore. It actually becomes something that you can advocate and really enjoy the rest of your life.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wnek. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, Mates TV.